third question that I have is, let me see, name the 3 things which make your job easier. And how do they make them easier?
Yeah, so we use AI called Opus Clip, and that is, we use that for the podcasts. So when the podcast is filmed, we upload it into the Opus software, and that then analyzes it and gives us out shorts based on the different topics that we put into it. So for that, we used to upload a full podcast, and that would give you maybe 20 clips, and out of that 20, maybe half would be actually usable. Recently, we have started splitting the podcast up to the actual different questions, and that's worked a lot better in terms of the output, the quality. We're able to get maybe 30, 40 clips as opposed to the 10 from the first one. So Opus definitely speeds up the process of getting shorts in the podcast and stuff out, because otherwise doing that, you'd have to go through the podcast just manually.
One of the things that I don't like about Opus is the sensationalism of the titles. I've never liked it. It annoyed me last year. It really frustrates me now because it takes it out of context and automatically glams it up.
I can take sort of one thing that someone said and go with that instead of listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, contextual awareness is...
But it gives you a good sort of basis to go off then. Because then someone can come behind it and sort of trim it and extend it or do whatever they think they needs to get it to something.
But you couldn't do work without it, really?
Yeah,
sure,
no,
you couldn't,
it does about probably 60% of the work, for you.
Okay.
And then you can just manually do the rest yourself from it.
Yeah, I think that our journey line is one whereby our understanding of the Opus and way that we feed it as well makes it more interesting, the snippets and outcomes from it. But I haven't seen any change from that sensationalism. That seems to be embedded into it. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily certain that I like being associated with sensationalist titles. Yeah. I find that whole, from my generation, a bit clickbaitish for me. Yeah. I'm a bit suspicious of that. Do you feel that way about those sorts of titles? Would you prefer them to be toned down? Yeah, I think if they're toned down, they're definitely better. You don't want to go down the route of sort of the clickbait stuff, because then that's what just people will associate your content with, and they'll just not take it seriously. But how do you stop that whenever it automatically makes it clickbaitish? Yeah. It doesn't matter what technology, emails, as soon as you automate stuff, it starts to see things sensationalistly. Do we need to create our own boring title type of stuff, which is directly for people that might be interested in what you're actually talking? Does it need to be toned down? Yeah, I think maybe us trying to make something ourselves might be the way to go, because then we have the control over it and we can teach it. So we make it more mute. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully we've got the resources to continue down that pathway. Whether or not we would be buried by other people's clickbait or whatever, I don't know. But I think maybe in a couple of years' time, that might be a discussion for the internet or whatever, in terms of, is everything being brinkmanship, one-upmanship? Okay, so we've mentioned Opus. Any other things which make your job easier, Lee? Yeah, well, the whole Adobe Suite, just as a general, I use the whole, most programs, most Premiere Pro's what videos are edited with. Okay. AI is now broken into that. What other tools could you use apart from Adobe? Because I don't want people thinking, hey, I've mentioned Adobe before as well. I don't want people going, they're working for Adobe or whatever. It's just the tools that we're using from them. Well, what alternatives could there be to Adobe? When I started editing, maybe 12 years ago, Sony Vegas was sort of one of the biggest ones. Okay. I'm not sure if that's still around. You're showing your age now. Yeah, I know. That's what all sort of YouTubers would have used. There's the other big one that's sort of the competitor for Adobe would be DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve, yes. A lot of people use filmmakers would use that. It is more powerful in some instances. I've never personally used it. I've always kind of just used Adobe, because I get access to the whole suite for paying a subscription now, as everything is. Well, it's a cloud-based subscription. How do you pay for Adobe, or how do you pay for DaVinci? Is it just because a lot of these ones are free. And I always say that if something is free, then you're the product.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you pay for DaVinci. It used to be, I think, a couple £1,000 back years ago, but it's probably subscription based now as well.
Okay. So there we go. We could potentially use DaVinci,
Yeah.
but we're probably going to go down the Adobe rate because of its associated with Magento, because it's a one-stop solution type of stuff, which will make it easier for the agents to pass through its gateways. So, but DaVinci is a perfectly acceptable one to use. Yeah. I don't think there's any others that I can think of off the top of my head. But I'm sure there's a plethora of them.
Nothing in the same sort of league. Like people use CapCut and stuff now, like on TikTok and stuff, but it's not. That's for people, you know, really editing on their phones more so than sort of web-based content and stuff and for mobile. Okay, so there we go. So there's anything else that makes your job easier? Yeah, the last thing, got a new computer there at sort of the start of the year, was it? Okay. April time maybe. So upgraded from 6 or 7 year old Mac at the time. So getting that new computer has 4080 Super graphics card in it, Intel i9. So that really improved sort of the workflow, just being able to power through 4K footage. Camera records now, so that needs a lot more processing power. So definitely upgrading from that just made everything a lot easier. I think that obviously hardware is vital in terms of if you're doing this and in terms of investment and whatever that you need to make into it. I know over the past year or so, I've allocated a capital budget towards a big investment in the chips. We've seen the Dell computers come through, not just the GPU, and they're expensive. It's not just the CPU, it's the GPU and everything that goes with it. So you can't just plug in I thought kind of thought cutely that, well, I could get gaming laptops and therefore that would be sufficient, but it doesn't deal with the CPU element of it. So it takes it so far, but it doesn't do what you need it to do. So it's quite a big investment hardware wise. And it's always changing as well. Every sort of couple of months there's something new coming out. Well, our next one is the 5090 chip, isn't it? And trying to get those is extremely difficult. That's why we just had to accept the 5080. But as soon as a 5090 becomes, because people were charging, I think, a premium of 30-40% onto it, and it's just not worth that premium. Just kind of weight, you know. Obviously, if I had unlimited budget, I'd just pay that money, whatever. But we've got to keep it realistic. Okay, so I would say in summarization then, Lee, the three things which help you most in terms of video is the Adobe Suite. But it could just as easily be like DaVinci if you so wished, or any of the other ones, which whatever suits you, at whatever scale you're at. Second thing is the technology, the chips and the hardware and whatever. And the final thing is the Opus Clip aspect, which is for anybody that doesn't know, is something you put your YouTube through, and it picks out the chip, the little scenes for you. It gives you a rating. I'm not a big follower of the rating, because sometimes you'll get 99% and the clip won't make work. So you still need a human to edit it. And then you've got ones which are given a 65% ones. And they do better. And I'm going, I'm involved in those ones usually. Okay.